Hi guys. So I've been playing Wintertide Brand ever since 3.9, and I've always thought that this skill was very strong, very exceptional, in terms of its damage, clear, and overall quality of life. However, it wasn't since recently that the skill really has gotten attention, and a lot more people have been playing it. That's why I wanted to make a build on this guide on this skill finally, because I see a lot of misinformation in the community and a lot of people making mistakes in how as to how they're building their Wintertide brand character. And I wanted to give my take on it, having played every league, having seen the breakpoints and all both the strengths and the weaknesses of the character. Now, in terms of how this build feels, as you can see, we're kind of blasting through maps. Our clear is very good. Our survivability is also very high. We have a lot of defenses. We're also very good at bossing. It is a cold dot skill, so it's very mobile. As you kind of just put down your brands and you just run around. And it also doesn't really actually feel that good until you get a couple of key items. So I wouldn't say that Wintertide brand is a low budget skill. I would say that you either need a medium amount of currency and a decent amount of investment in order for the skill to start feeling good. But once you get to that stage, I think that your build will start really coming online, and it will be a very, very good solid build pushing you through the end game. For how powerful this build is, it's actually pretty easy to play. You basically just you put down your brands, put down your vortex, throw your hydrosphere, and you run around. Now, for my build, you can have up to 5 brands active at a time. Now, only 3 brands can attach to an enemy. So let's say that you have 5 brands down, and 3 are attached to an enemy. Do not cast any more brands, because brands have to gain stages and increase their damage over time before they can reach their maximum DPS. So don't make the mistake of continuously casting brands even though you have a maximum number of brands out. Other than that, you can put Vortex on your left click or right click and just keep activating it. You can throw your Hydrosphere occasionally to apply elemental weakness. If you hit your Vortex, hit your Hydrosphere with the Vortex, it will start pulsing and apply cold exposure. We have Flame Dash for mobility, kind of just use it to dodge whatever, and you have Molten Shell as a defensive guard skill. We also have Ball Discipline as a panic button to regenerate our ES, in a tough spot, after we do a lot of damage. And yeah, it's pretty easy to play. Let's get into the gear. So going into a brief overview of the gear. Now, I mentioned that I league started Wintertide brand, but I didn't want to spend a lot of time as an HP build, because I really feel like Wintertide brand doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel as good. It doesn't do as much damage as it should. It doesn't feel as smooth until you really go into ES, or low life. So definitely recommend as soon as you can start to pick up some of these uniques. And the first unique you should pick up is Shavron's Wrappings. You literally live and die by this chest. It allows you to go low life. This is best in slot, cannot be replaced. The other item that goes with it is obviously Prism Guardian, because this allows you to reserve your life. Allows us to have 7 auras, all the damage auras. It's going to give you a lot of tankiness. It gives us a lot of resistances and dexterity. We actually really capped on attributes. We need about 155 strength and 120 dex in order to use the gems that we use, because we do have determination, which needs 155 strength, and swift affliction, which requires 117 strength. So we're a little bit attributes capped, or we're a little bit stressed for attributes, so we really want to get it wherever we can. And Prism Memory gives us 30 dex, and that's really good. The next item that you should pick up is Presence of Chuyula. This allows you to have stun immunity. This item gives you effectively 1,500 ES, because a lot of your life is converted to energy shield. If you can also bless it up, or catalyst it with defense tempering catalyst, which would give you another 4% of life compared to energy shield. In terms of the boots, a really cheap option and a really good end game option. I've been using this since the beginning. Are Syntrex. Again, they give dex, which we need a lot. A lot of movement speed, a lot of ES for its price. Just very good and cost-efficient shield. Boot. For a helmet, I've gone with the Crown of the Inward Eye because it gives us a lot of armor. For a helmet, that's 1,000 armor. It makes it very tanky. It also gives us a lot of damage because of Transfiguring Vision of a Mine, which is 5% of any increases to ES is converted to damage. Also has a pretty good amount of energy shield. For this slot, you could also use Rhyme Gaze, but Rhyme Gaze doesn't give you as much armor, and even though it has more ES, the armor is actually going to mitigate more damage for you in the long run, and this does more damage. For our left ring slot, we're using a Profane Proxy to proliferate Frostbite. As you can see, the Skitterbot here has this Frostbite all around him. So any enemy that's around the Skitterbot, within a decent radius on my screen, is going to be cursed with Frostbite. This allows us to really use Profane Bloom. Any enemies we're going to kill are going to explode, and it's going to proliferate. And after that, all the other gear is going to be used to cap your attributes and your resistances. So your ring, your belt, and your gloves, it doesn't really matter what they have. It's just you just try to cap your attributes and get as much ES as you can, and make sure that your resists are capped. Now, even though my character is really in game, I'm still pretty capped for straps for resistances. I've even taken like a plus 50% all elemental resistance node because we're just so strapped for resistances because we have a lot of uniques. For the wand, the 4 main stats that you should look on the wand for a wand are +1 level to gems, increased spell damage, cast speed, and cold damage over time multiplier. The best way to search for this is to search for 3 of them and to craft the last one on, except for to all skill gems. I have +2 to all cold and spell skill gems, but that's not really necessary. +1 is just fine. And for our flasks, I actually run 2 Quicksilvers. It looks a bit funny, but our build doesn't move very fast, so having 2 Quicksilver flasks can help us out a lot. Ruby's Concoction gives us a lot of block and armor, which is very nice. Gotta have a phasing flask so we don't die. And then Onslaught gives us more cast speed and movement speed. It's great for mapping. So a few notes on the passive tree. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You just copy it, right? But we have a cluster jewel here. If you don't have these cluster jewels, I recommend having over here, over to Season of Ice, and then also down to Soul Thief, and then taking the notable +1 energy shield per 8 evasion on boots. Our boots have 500 evasion rating, so this gives us a lot of ES. Soul Thief is incredibly important because it gives recover 2% of energy on kill, and that's going to kind of replace Brush with Death. It's going to give you a lot of survivability. We also have a Thread of Hope. We pick up cast speed, Heart of Ice, and then some ES. If you don't have this, you can just path all the way up here through these cold damage nodes up to Heart of Ice until you have the Thread of Hope, and it must be a large ring. We anoint Charisma so that we can reserve all of our auras. Unfortunately, it does cost 2 golds and an opalescent. If you can't afford this, I recommend having down to pick up this cluster of mana reservation. You can take the Clarity has 100% increased mana reservation efficiency Keystone or Mastery, and then you can also socket into a jewel socket, a Conqueror's efficiency, the jewel you get in Act 8, which also gives mana reservation efficiency until you can afford Charisma. And then for our Ascendancies, we go into Frigid Wake first. So your first lab, Void Beacon, second lab, Frigid Wake. And then after that, if you are League starting this and you have starting life, I recommend picking a Vile Bastion because, that's going to give you your stun immunity. Because assuming you don't have Presence of Tulia, if this is your second build, or if you already have Presence of Tulia, you can directly go into Profane Gloom, and then after that you can take a Malediction. So if you don't have a Presence of Tulia and you start with Vile Bastion, you can just hold on to this, and then you can skip one of these until you have a Presence of Tulia. Once you have that, you can spec out of Vile Bastion and then go and fully fill out your passive tree. Right, so now for an overview of the gem links. So our 6th link is going to be obviously Wintertide brand. We connected with Efficacy, Elemental Focus, Control Destruction, Hypothermia, and Swift Affliction. I recommend doing it in this order, from top to bottom, as you go from a 4 link to a 6 link. I have Awakened gems, but you can replace these as you upgrade your gear. Normal gems are obviously fine. For our Vortex, our 4 link setup, we have Vortex, Arcane Surge, Bone Chill, and Efficiency. Arcane Surge, make sure you don't level up above 7 because we want to activate Arcane Surge every time we hit a Vortex. And then the rest of the build is just, auras, right? Determination, Zealotry, Malevolence. Your Frostbite must be socketed in your Profane Proxy because that's going to apply the Frostbite effect. And make sure that the Profane Proxy is in the left slot because we don't need the Chilling Aura. We want the Shocking Aura. And then we have Clarity and Hatred. I've also linked Culling Strike to Flame Dash. It's kind of funny. Wintertide brand does like a very consistent damage amount, so you can kind of like measure when a bosses go under 10%, and you can just kind of Flame Dash through them. It's very nice. And then our second curse that we apply is Elemental Weakness. We do this with Hydrosphere, and connected with Hex Touch. Obviously, we have Wall Discipline, Summon Skitterbots, Defiance Banner, and Molten Shell. Now, while we're in POB, I kind of want to give an overview of how to read POB for Wintertide. So, the first major thing you have to look at when you're looking at any POB for Wintertide brand is activations per brand. So, let me just turn off my Onslaught Flask. So to simulate a reality. So basically, if your activations per brand is not at least 20, that means you don't have enough cast speed because a Wintertide brand gains stages depending on your cast rate all the way up to 20 stages, 24 if you have the Helm enchant, but benchmark 20. If you don't have 20, you don't have enough cast speed, you need to spec more into it. Second of all, this dot DPS that you see here, this is per brand. And this is ticking DPS. And this does not include the explosion DPS that's applied when Wintertide brand explodes. So a better way to think about it is that for every brand that you have attached on an enemy, it's going to be doing up to 2 million DPS. It's obviously going to ramp up to 2 million, but every brand is going to be doing your dot DPS amount, and then when it explodes, it's going to apply 2 million dot DPS to everything around it in the area, including your target. So at the peak of DPS, we have about 8 million DPS. So this build is very, very good in terms of the offense department, but we also have a lot of resources that have inspected the defense, and this character is pretty tanky. So right off the bat, you can see that we have about 7,500 ES. I think that's pretty good. We have a Shavs over like a rare chest, which gives usually like 600. So 7,500. That's very respectable. Around I think 5,000, 6,000. That's like the comfortable range that you try to aim for. My gear is pretty endgame, so it's a bit higher. But 5,000 or 6,000, is usually what you should shoot for. More on defense, we have about 18,000 armor, 19,000 just by standing here doing nothing. If we activate our Molten Shell, we go up to 22,000. With our Granite Flask up, we go up to, as you can see, about 30,000. So that is a lot of physical mitigation. And our Molten Shell, it blocks for 4,500, lasts 4 or 5 seconds. That's like more than half of our HP. So this thing is mitigating a lot of damage. I have it on my left click, so as I'm moving around, it automatically activates and it just blocks stuff, damage. We also have spec into Divine Shield. This is very good for hybrid ES and armor builds because as we have 30,000 armor with flasks up, any armor or any physical damage that we mitigate, we're going to be getting 3% of it as energy shield that's being regenerated every second. And this is especially good for mapping because in mapping you get hit by a lot of like multi hits from range mobs, and all of those stack up. So you regenerate, you regenerate hundreds and thousands of ES per second, and it's going to make you very, very tanky. Also, because we have a shield and we do have a Ruby's Concoction, our block chance is actually, it's about, where is it? Well, anyways, a Prism Guardian has 22% chance to block. This Ruby has a 12% chance to block. So, like 34% of the chance, 34% of the time, we take no damage from physical hits. We haven't spec'd into any block nodes, but it's still nice to have. And 34% of the time we take no physical damage. Furthermore, on ES recovery, we have spec'd into a lot of energy recharge startup or faster startup energy recharge. For example, on this Watcher's Eye, we have 32%. Over here, Essence Surge, that's 20 more %, and Arcane Focus is giving us another 10%. Now, what that means is that after we take damage, our ES is going to start recovering, or the recharge as it is going to start faster. And that's very good with Wicked Ward, which allows you to continuously regenerate your ES even after you get hit. So normally with ES, if your ES is regenerating and you take damage, it will stop regenerating and you have to wait for the energy recharge to start again. But with Wicked Ward, if it starts regenerating, as long as you're not at full ES, it will continue to regenerate. And this is very powerful because you can just continue mapping after taking damage and you will continue to regenerate, and it makes it very tanky. Furthermore, we have Brush with Death, which is, it's going to give us 1% of ES recovered instantly every time we get a kill. This is great for mapping. Sometimes you flame dash into a mob, you take like half your HP, but then you blow up everything with Profane Bloom, and you heal for 50% of your ES, and then you go back to full. This is really good for mapping. And then furthermore, for our Ascendency, we have Malediction, which is going to make enemies deal 10% reduced damage after we curse them. And so overall, this build is very, very tanky. It doesn't really die to a lot of stuff. Obviously, it still is going to die to the pinnacle content, but if you're just mapping, doing normal content, you shouldn't be really getting a one shot. So I want to take some time into discussing how I've skilled my character into the end game. Now, you will find that after you've gotten, all of the unique items, the core items, you've got some decent rare gear, that you're going to be having decent DPS, decent clear, but against some of the pinnacle bosses in the game, some of the end game bosses in the game, such as Maven, Uber Elder, and obviously the Invitations, that you're still going to be lacking a bit of damage. So I'm going to give you a few ways that you can improve your damage. So first and foremost is to get a better wand. +2 of all skill gems is going to help you out a lot. Obviously, the other stats have to be spell damage, cast speed, and cold damage over time multiplier. Obviously, make sure your chest is 6 linked. But for your main links, I've actually got Awakened gems. The most important gem to get out of these is Elemental Focus, and you can focus on getting this to level 5 as soon as possible, because at max level, Elemental Focus support on the Awakened version gives you +1 to your supported elemental skill gems, and as you know, spell skill gems scale very well with level, and Wintertide Brand is no exception. For your helmet, you can get an enchanted helmet with either 40% Wintertide Brand damage or +4 to all stages. I don't have one because, well, it's day 5 of the league and there's none on the market. For your boots, I've gotten an enchant. Damage penetrates 10% of elemental resistances if you haven't killed recently. This is going to help you in the end game bosses because you're not killing anything. And damage penetration is not the same as like a curse, right? Like my curse reduces minus, 49% cold resistance, and I have a lot of curse effect, but bosses in the end game have minus 66% to curse effectiveness. So, you know, my frostbite is only going to be removing about 13-14%. But any line that reaches penetrate resistances is always going to fully apply. And then for your flex items, your ring, your gloves, and your belt, you can make these better in a lot of ways. For your gloves, you can try to get as much ES as possible. You can also get cold damage over time multiplier on your gloves. You can either get this as an implicit. I've gotten it by putting Searing Exarch orbs onto it. You can also get it as a suffix on Hunter or Shaper bases. For your belt, in order to get more ES, you can get both flat ES and percent ES. This will give you, you know, as much ES as your body armor gives. And then for your ring, what I've done is that I've gotten the +1 minimum frenzy charges as a suffix, and you can also get damage over time multiplier as another suffix. You can also get percent energy shield as a prefix. These are all very good and can improve your endgame DPS. As for your passive tree and your jewels, I've gotten a Watcher's Eye. The best stat that you can get is damage over time multiplier while affected by malevolence. This is a little bit expensive, but it will give you the most DPS. If you can't afford that, you can get a jewel with increased cold damage while affected by hatred. This is much cheaper and gives you, 60% of the damage, I think. And then finally, what I've spec'd into are a pair of Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame jewels for the Elementalist Ascendency Heart of Destruction. And what Heart of Destruction gives us is Convergence, and then Convergence basically gives us 30% more elemental damage lasting 4 seconds if we've hit an enemy or a unique enemy. And this is very good for both mapping and bossing, because while you're mapping, you get to enjoy 60% increased 60% increased area of effect, and while bossing or killing unique monsters where you need it, you're going to be getting 30% more elemental damage. So I can just show you the stark difference. So without the Convergence on, this is how big your Vortex is. With Convergence, this is how big it is. So it's a pretty massive increase to the radius, and a very massive increase to DPS when you're fighting the endgame bosses. Obviously, these are not required. If you can't afford these, they're a little bit expensive. You can just get a rare Cobalt jewels with damage over time multiplier and an energy shield. Those will serve you just fine as well. And that's it for the guide portion of this video. If you have any questions, you can leave it down in the comment section below. I'll try to get back to you. And I'll leave you with a few boss skills. Thanks for watching.
Victorious! Absurd defiance ends here, hatchling. We will win this together! Annihilation. Disintegration. Incineration. Annihilation. The fires of 1,000 suns. I shall extinguish them all. Infinite of the strength, hatchling. That may be, but I
Disintegration. Cleansing. Annihilation. Incineration. Disintegration. Cleansing.
Now you can defeat us.
Aldo had some ingenious designs hidden in its memories. Observe!
When I'm ready, and not before.
Please read.
Aldo's designs were flawed. Do you remember dying here? You will.
Let's read.
Feel the pull of the void! What are you? In this, the realm of the past, I am king, and you will bow!
I need more mana.
This one is my own creation. Plenty more where that came from. Face your destruction. Be no more. Faith empowers. Belief overwhelmed. Cleansing flame. No! Impossible! How? This isn't over. This will never be over. I will unify humanity.
Stand up high. Stand still.
Resisting. Punishment inescapable.
Arrogant toy.
ready and not before.
At least die with some flair. A mote of my light. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Twin terrors. Stop and hunt. Life is terrible.
I need more mana.
Not good. A mote of my might. Handle this. Twin terrors. Life is terrible. Stop and hunt. Shadow, rise and fight. Another cannon, a mote of my might. Mortal flesh is so fallible.
Embraced by blizzard.
A mote of my might. Not good.
I obey.
Shadow, rise and